Hi again then guys, and welcome to another speed build on Forza Horizon 3, and this particular build is not quite as quick. It's just not as quick a vehicle as we would usually build. It's not a supercar, a hypercar, a high-end super saloon. It's a van. The GMC Vandura makes a great rival to the Transit van and a couple of others as well, a couple of oddball vehicles. And cars like this are always more about the fun than necessarily being the best in any particular category. Now, as you can see, we've gone for quite an understated but at the same time weird colour scheme. I've gone for understated kind of sleeper spec white but with a pink interior. You can get that incidentally from my storefront, as with the tune, so just use the keywords down below to find that quickly and easily. Now, speaking of the tune, I would recommend an engine swap to, of course, that 1500 horsepower V12. You could go for a different one if you need to, for lower car classes, that kind of stuff, but this is just full-on, full-spec build. I would recommend all-wheel drive, unless you're opposed to it, of course, then just don't fit it. Aspiration, you want the twin-turbo, of course. As you can see, we do have a roll cage in this one. It does improve the vehicle, helps with that body rigidity, which also helps with launch and, of course, cornering as well. As far as the rest, just improve everything. Upgrade the tyres, lower the weight, increase the power. Basically, as I've said before, fit everything with racing in the title. That's basically a good way of setting up the car, except, of course, the front and rear wing, because they aren't great for top-end speed in particular. And with a car like this, you can't really afford to sacrifice top-end speed because you haven't got a huge amount to be working with. It's not slow, especially not for a van, but it's not as quick as many other cars. Now, speaking of how quick it is, the acceleration is kind of more impressive than the top speed on this vehicle. 2.4 to 60, just under 5 to 100. That's pretty good, to say the least. Max speed of 219, at least according to the benchmark. Now, in a moment, of course, we'll see how quick it can go, but for now, I would recommend a final drive of 4.2, then individual gears of 2.9, 2, 1.5, 1.9, or 1.17 I should say, 0.95 and 0.78. Alignment, we've got neutral camber and toe, unless, as always, you want to have some. I've gone for 1 degree of caster, primarily for manoeuvrability. Anti-roll, I've rounded off to 32 and 20. Springs I've got on 247 and 250. I've opted for the highest ride height, and that's primarily for the looks. You don't need to do that though, you could slam it if you wanted to. Dampers we've got on 14, 13, 6 and 6. Aero of course doesn't apply. And for the diff we've got 100% on acceleration, 0 on decel, although that definitely won't be to everyone's taste, especially with a bigger, heavier, more cumbersome vehicle. So play around, find what works best for you by all means. And I've gone for an 80% split in favour of the back end on this particular car. So having that 20% go into the front just helps with launch, of course, off the line, and also off-road in particular. But it still allows you to throw the car through the corners without being overly heavy. And of course, to still drift the van if you want to. So that's it for the build, which, as I said, is on my storefront. But now let's take it out on the street to see what it can do. Now, of course, with a car like this, in a similar way to the Transit van and various other vehicles, it's more about just the oddball fun factor, the novelty factor, if you will, rather than trying to be the best. That's pretty obvious, but still, you have to say that. Sometimes people expect too much of a certain vehicle, and I'm not saying that to make excuses for the car, because as far as vehicles like this go, it's actually pretty quick. It gets up to the top speed of around 220, surprisingly quickly. In fact, it's just a shame that it doesn't go even quicker, because it feels like it certainly could. But of course, the aerodynamics of a house don't exactly work in your favour. That being said, it's a very quick van and can certainly give plenty of other SUVs and vans a great run for their money. So overall, I hope you have a lot of fun with the tune, of course, and potentially even win some races with it as well. And if you like this, there are plenty more tunes just like this, and a lot of quicker ones on the channel also. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.